I have always wanted to film baking as I find it very relaxing. And since quarantine began, I have been making these chocolate chip cookies from a Bon Appetit recipe. They are absolutely delicious, so enjoy.
I always start this recipe by preparing the dry ingredients first. Here I have 4 different types of chocolate, from milk to dark to very dark. Here I eyeballed about 80 grams. Next is the very dark 85% chocolate, so I used less of this. For the 74%, I used about 40 grams as well. This last one is my favourite chocolate at 70%. For this last chocolate, I think I used about 60 grams. I actually think this works out at a little bit more chocolate than in the Bon Appetit recipe, but you can never have too much chocolate. The aim is just to make the chocolate into little chippish sized pieces. Okay, so pistachios definitely don't feature in the original Bon Appetit recipe, but I absolutely love them with the chocolate in these cookies. So I tend to just guess an amount every time I add them, but I think this time I ended up with about 30. Use however much looks good to you. The Bon Appetit recipe calls for all-purpose flour, so I was using the British plain flour. To the bowl of flour, I added 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt, My measurement spoon is half a teaspoon, so I just guessed the 3/4. Then is the baking or the bicarbonate of soda. I put all that to one side and started with the butter. Here I guessed roughly how much would equal 170 grams. It's essential to separate the butter, with about 100 grams going straight into the saucepan to be melted and browned, and 70 grams kept aside to melt later. Generally, I've found that start to finish, to have really nice brown butter, it takes about 5 minutes. The butter does actually get really foamy before it goes brown. I transferred the butter from the pan straight away to prevent it burning. Then I added the rest of the butter and stirred to melt it. Now the sugars. First, I weighed out the white granulated sugar. Next is the dark brown packed sugar. The total weight of the sugar needs to be about 250 grams. Now that all the individual ingredients are ready to be mixed, I switch on the oven. I put the trays in the oven to heat. In a big bowl, I mixed the butter and sugar together first. Generally, I find at this stage that they don't actually combine that well and the sugar stays quite grainy. Now the messy part. I separated 2 eggs with my hand and whisked each yolk into the mixture separately. Now for a key ingredient, vanilla extract. The recipe requires 2 full teaspoons. To stir in the flour, I swapped the whisk for a spoon because it makes it easier to fold it in without overmixing. And now, the chocolate and pistachios. And that's it, we have our delicious cookie dough. All that's left to do is scoop it onto the trays. I wasn't too scientific about this, and I used an ice cream scoop to try and scoop about the right amount for a good cookie. I did try and make sure all the scoops were roughly circular and about the same size. I found the cookies took around 10 minutes to cook. When they are golden brown, gooey in the middle and crisp around the edges, those bad boys are ready to take out the oven. And this is the final result. Ooey gooey chocolate chip cookies with pistachio gems. Time for the all-important chocolate cookie break.
I hope you've enjoyed the video as much as I enjoyed these cookies. They are absolutely delicious and pretty easy to make, so I would say go for it if you like cookies. I will put a link with the Bon Appetit recipe and the video with Chris Morocco in the description box. Give it a go if you have been bored like I am on quarantine. Cheers. Divine.